Hello, friends, and welcome to the Lighthouse. Peace, peace to all who enter this space, this meditative space, this shared integrative practice session. I'm very happy, very grateful to have this 30 minutes with you and to share some techniques for the day that will hopefully help you feel like you have the empowerment of a fresh mind and a relationship with your joy body. So I'm wondering if you have ever wondered, what is it? What is it that separates us as human beings from all of the other species that are walking around on the planet Earth, on our beautiful planet? Well, if you were to ask any of the indigenous wisdom-keeping elders, they would each, of course, in their own unique, iterative manner, they would each in some way, shape, or form probably point to the fact that what it is that distinguishes us from the others is the fact that we are the story keepers and the storytellers. Keepers and tellers. So in my views, with that comes a great good amount of responsibility. And of course, responsibility is the ability to respond. So as keepers and tellers of stories, we are also editors. So we are constantly in a process of editing which stories, hopefully in a process of editing which stories are going to earn their keep in the permanent collection. And as editors, we are also practicing discernment around which stories we're going to hit delete on, which files are, going to the trash. So if you think about the power of story with respect to the way forward, we need to be remembering certain things. And remembrance is a most remarkable form of an antidote that we all need in this time. And so as we center ourselves as tellers, as keepers, as editors of story, it's important to remember that wherever the mind goes, we go. And that when the stories that we tell ourselves begin to change, then the stories we begin to tell others, the stories we begin to tell each other, begin to change. And when the stories that we tell the world begin to change, then we begin to change the world with our stories. So this is, it's a beautiful, long path, and it begins very, very locally. If we are going to begin to change the world with the stories that we tell ourselves and the stories that we tell each other, it has to start at the small. It has to start in the infinitesimal. It has to start in the substratum. It has to start locally before it can have a ripple effect in the non-local existence and co-creative, collaborative field of our world and our life. So how do we do this? How do we create a field shift, a paradigm leap regarding some of the stories that maybe we've been telling ourselves, which maybe aren't always the stories that we want to have in a permanent library, right? If I just think about like what kind of elder I want to be, and if I kind of cut and paste myself into that bracket of psychology for this moment, it helps me to be a keeper and a teller and an editor of the right flow of stories. So how do we make sure that, we're not getting stuck in the lag, that we're not in some sort of wormhole or strange loop of an old rant that is outdated and outmoded and no longer serving the direction that we are going in? Mental hygiene, that's how we do it. Mental hygiene. If you think about it, most of us are brushing our teeth at least twice a day, probably some of us more. But how many times a day do you brush your mind out? Do you brush it clean? Do you give it space and a dustless terrain through which to perceive and respond? Well, every time we meet in a meditative manner and integrative practices, we are brushing out the mind. We are practicing mental hygiene. And this helps us to not be telling stories from what in the East they call the Vikalpa. So the Vikalpa is this massive constellation of thought constructs and limiting self-beliefs and patterns that keep us in the slums of the small self. The practice of daily, regular mental hygiene helps us to tell stories that are driven by, that are motivated by, and that are devoted to opportunity and collaboration and care and concern and creativity and revelation and innovation and on and on and on, right? To be in an optimistic continuum of life. So I've put together a series of practices for today's session that will hopefully help you to get very comfortable with your relationship with your buddhi mind. So the buddhi mind is the part of your mind that is the wisdom mind, the part of the mind that is so mature that you needn't remind it to practice discernment. It is just devoted to such a degree to the practice and the art and even the science of discernment that it's just happening as organically as the inflow meets as the inhale meets the exhale. It's just happening. So I have very strategically chosen some breathing techniques that are going to help us get inside of that reality, that perceptual reality. So take this first moment to tune in to your open, compassionate heart, to develop some lucidity around any shadow programs that might be driving your mind right now, and give them permission to make a move out. Any shadow programs that might be making you feel like you're sleepwalking or separate or stuck. But doing all of this, witnessing all of this from the buddhi mind, from witness consciousness, without a need to label or judge or anything, just seeing it and holding a big space underneath the big tent, so that we can use the breathing techniques and we can use the mudras and we can use the mantra to work the myriad mind, to use it like a Rubik's Cube. Okay, so for this first breathing meditation, this is a technique for creating tranquility in the mind. The goal is equanimity, and again, the goal is witness consciousness. So you're going to join the first two segments of your index fingers and point them in towards your heart center. You're going to conjoin the tip of the the middle finger, conjoin the tip of the middle finger and push that away from your body, and then bend the ring finger, bend the pinky finger, and touch the thumbs, okay? So you've got this shape, and then you're going to have the tip of the middle fingers pointing away from the body, and the tips of the thumbs pointing in towards the center of the body, but not making contact. You're in that electromagnetic field. So some of these practices might feel very accessible and easy, and others may feel a little bit challenging. As always, in integrative practices, begin where you are and let it move you. We are always changed beings by the time we hit the end of the meditation. Begin wherever you are, because that's a perfect place to begin. Begin anywhere. Press the fingers, and you want to make sure that you have, as always, a sufficiency of pressurization, because this is what is going to create a shift in the signaling in the system, okay? So you're going to open the mouth and breathe through a circular shape of the lips. And then exhale through the nose. So for this meditation, don't be too concerned with the pause after the inhale or the exhale. Just keep that smooth, evenly metered cadence and flow of inhale becoming exhale, becoming inhale again. Okay? Getting into the feedback loop where you are undeniably experiencing the sensation of your life force energy being looped. So these practices for today are techniques that are going to help us hack the mainframe of habituation and to purify the mind so that we're in the buddhi, so that we're telling the right kinds of stories, and so that that energy of fire, which so very many of us in the world right now are feeling, that energy of fire can be transformed, can be cooked. This is tapas. We're using the methodologies to cook the energy and to transform the energy so that it's not burning us and making us feel crazy or frightened or separate, but we transform that energy of fire so that it becomes self-effulgence, so that it becomes radiance, so that it becomes compassion. Okay? So please keep that going. I'm going to play this old singing bowl. This is a beautiful singing bowl that was given to me by my primary sound mentor. And this bowl happens to be over 200 years old. And for the entirety of its existence, it's been utilized in a meditative, mindful, medicinal kind of way to help human beings feel more centered, to feel more harmonious. So I'm going to be singing a mantra while you do this breathing and while you sustain the mudra. I will cue you when to stop, so keep it going and enjoy the ride. Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum. Om mani padme hum, 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 Om mani padme hum. Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum. Breathing in all the way down to the bottom bone. Let it cook you. Let it transform you. Let it move you. Let it return you. The ultimate antidote of remembrance is right on the other side of the inhale. Take it deeper, please. Om mani padme hum, 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 Om mani padme hum. Om mani padme hum, 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 Om mani padme hum. Take another breath in. Hold this breath for as long as you comfortably can. Witnessing from a place of clarity, of self-trust. Witnessing how the practice places you on a more quantum timeline of possibility. The privilege of perceiving from the wide-angle lens. Mind as big as the sky. Heart the size of the world. Take one more really long, wholehearted, omnidirectional, penetrative inhale. And exhaling into emptiness. Relaxing the hands, if they're not already, into the lap. And recognizing that the great work is changing ourselves. You're hearing my dog scratching on the door. She's always part of these sessions in some way, shape, or form. All right, so moving right along, there is much to, feel nervous about right now in our current events, in the external situations and circumstances of our world. Felipa, come here. And this particular meditation and this particular mudra will help create a balance in the central nervous system, so that the signal can be sent to the brain and to the nervous system to climb out of the survival centers and to settle into a more equanimous flow of self-trust within a sense of place that understands the known and that can hold space for the unknown. Okay, so again, it's this Buddhi mind, this wisdom mind that is full of discernment, that can sort between the true and the untrue, backed by a compassionate, wide open heart, the size of our world. So you're going to press the thumbs, right hand in front, left hand closer to the body, and then hover this shape right out in front of the center of the wheel of the body. So this pressing of the thumbs, and you want to keep that pressurization going for the duration of the meditation. The pressing of the thumbs is going to create a harmony in the sciatic nerve all the way down to the ego. So the thumb of your human hand has to do with the ahamkara, which is the I maker, which is the ego center of the brain. So we're pressing on it to create a movement, to catalyze a shift, to cook, to transform, so that the ahamkara is now sort of hovering beneath the buddhi. So pressing in this way, and let your entire nervous system and glandular system move in the direction of balance. And recognize that life's beauty is based in the breath. Almost every dis-ease, almost every dysfunction, almost every dis of any kind can be tracked back to some point of origin that has to do with a dystopia in the breathing, an imbalance in the management of how the inhale becomes the exhale, becomes the inhale. Okay, so you're hovering here, and you're going to breathe in, really going for that in-breath, and then hold it, and then exhale. So it's very, very important on the exhale that you use your abdominal wall and the musculature of it so as to kind of steamroll all four valves of the heart and the lungs, so that you really are going to zero. And then I want you to pause, and pause. The air has to go all the way out, all the way out. So keep this going. I'm going to sing for you. This is a beautiful mantra that's really, really useful for times such as this. When times are uncertain. This is Rake, Raka Anhara. We are in that state, that when we are in that, we are empty, that we are our greatest gift to humanity, because we are free of oneself. Even if it's just looking at it sideways for a split second out of the corner of the eye. Free of oneself. Free of oneself. Beautiful. Bring the practice to a close. I want to do one more practice today. So we very commonly in integrative practices do a breath of fire technique. For today, I want to take it one step up. So what that means is that it may feel a little bit challenging. Felipa, come here. She's whining at the door. I'm not going to get up and let her out until we're done. We're going to take it up one step, which may feel like it's making it a little bit challenging. So rather than breathing out of both nostrils at the same time, which we typically do and we naturally do as a human organism, we're going to do alternate single nostril with the breath of fire, which is going to sophisticate the whole process. Come here. It's going to sophisticate the whole process and purify the mind and position us even more so in a powerful manner with the buddhi. Come here. So you're going to use, come here, sit with me for a second. You're going to use your right hand, and the right ring finger is going to be responsible for opening and closing the left nostril, and the right thumb is going to be responsible for opening and closing the right nostril. And this is going to happen just underneath the sturdy cartilage bridge of your nose. So not down at the nostrils, but just up here. Okay, so get a sense for alternately opening and closing. So you're going to only have one nostril open at a time, and feel the oscillation from the elbow up into the tips of the fingers. Very simply that. So as this is happening with the right hand, your left hand is going to be hovering all the while, placed compassionately at the heart center. I oftentimes, when I'm singing or doing any kind of like sonic work or sound meditation, provided both of my hands are not using a tool or an instrument, I will almost always instinctually fly a hand up to my chest. And what happens when you've got your hand at your chest is you can feel the sound of the breath, you can feel any kind of sound that you may be making, and therefore you can deepen it. And like I was saying earlier, you can go all the way down to the bottom bone. This is such a good muse to have as human beings on the path of awakening wisdom, as keepers and tellers of stories, as editors of stories, as practitioners of mental hygiene, and as beings who are devoted to bringing effulgence out into a world of need, compassion out into a world of need. So we're going to use the breath of fire to cook us, to transform us, to take any anger or fear or jealousy or greed or any of that, which is a fire, and to transform it into a radiant fire, the path of fire and light. Okay, so left hand, right hand. Watch here, I'm going to demonstrate for a second. I'm going to do one inhale and exhale out of the right, and then one inhale and exhale out of the left. You don't need to oscillate your head as you do this though. I was just doing so that you can see. Look straight ahead. You're actually going to be positioning your gaze down to the tip of the nose as you do the practice. I started a little too fast, so I want you to tune in with that second rhythmic pace that I just set. So listen again. Okay, as you exhale, see if you can also be pumping your abdominal wall to have a capacity of, with your navel skills, will always benefit your health. Okay, so we want to use all the different empowerments and possibilities that are encoded within these integrative practices to affect the glandular system, to affect the nervous system, to affect the brain, to affect the organ function, and to, transform us into more radiantly happy and contributing humans. So let's give this a try. I'm going to do it with you so that you can find the pace and stick with it. Okay, so place the hand, begin by closing the left nostril, and one quick cycle of breath of fire out of the right and then out of the left. Sitting up nice and straight, keep it going. Don't forget to utilize your abdominal wall. Every time you exhale, let that purify, let it elevate, let it activate, let it integrate. keep it going, don't stop. Keep it going. Relax the attachment site where the bottom jaw and the top jaw conjoin, while still continuing the breathing technique. Relax the inside of the mouth. Relax the low back where your kidneys are. Relax your feet. Relax your hands. Unabashed, absolute permission to relax a little bit more, to come home into the abode of the body a little bit more. A couple more. Last one. One breath on the right. One breath on the left. And then relax the whole practice. One of the most effective ways of climbing up out of the self-limiting habit patterns or perceptions or beliefs or opinions is to awaken and harness and channelize the way your breath is moving. You can create a shift from any disorder, from any dysfunction, from any dis-ease through the use of the breath. And so hopefully these techniques that we've explored today have helped you get into the inside of the inside of your inside, to work with the infinitesimal, to get into the very, very small unit of energy, the prana in your body, and to create an ascension pranically so that you are in the higher octaves of your buddhi mind, your wisdom mind, the discernment, a mind as big as the sky, a heart the size of the world. One more moment of witness consciousness. Of course, you could continue to sit and meditate for as long as you desire or need. After the session ends, you can stay as is. Thank you so much for being here. Sat Nam. Namaste.